But are the paychecks good according to you?
Yeah.
Decent.
Yeah.
Okay. How much?
I mean, like I said, I don't see it. I can't say because depends on what everyone wants to do.
So Shweta, tell me, how do you handle creative blocks when the inspiration doesn't come easily?
I mean, classic is something that I guess lasts years, like over at least, I don't know, 50 years. So my personal work, if you see, like there's a very like a pastel, minimal kind of a color palette. So that comes out in most of my work, but it depends on the brief for every project. It's not like traditionally in graphic design, but I started doing surface design because I started first with apparel, and
Acha.
then so from that kind of did some textiles and bed linen and like.
Today we are going to meet someone who has 20 years of experience in the field of graphic designing. She's an independent designer who has keen interest in designs for lifestyle, fashion, music and art. Her designs are aesthetic, minimal, bold and graphic. Her work represents contemporary India rooted in Indian culture but at the same time distilled with fresh and modern outlook. Since 2019, she's part of Alliance Graphic International, which is an association of international graphic designers across the world. So without further ado, let's welcome Shweta Malhotra. Hello Shweta, welcome to my pod talk.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So how are you doing today?
Good, a little nervous.
डोंट वरी तो श्वेता आप हमें बताइए कि ग्राफिक डिज़ाइनिंग की फील्ड में आपका आना कब हुआ?
So I basically after college, I always liked drawing and was always winning awards in school. So after I finished my college, like that was like a natural move to join commercial art in Sophia's.
अच्छा,
So I joined the 5-year course and then got into
ग्राफिक
graphic design.
डिज़ाइनिंग.
I think,
बट
yeah.
फिर भी आर्ट में बहुत सारी फील्ड है ना, लाइक नॉर्मल फैशन डिज़ाइनिंग भी होता है, बट ग्राफिक डिज़ाइनिंग आपने
So
क्यों
art
चुना?
and design, there was like in Bombay, there's JJ School, Sophia's. At that time, there was literally 2-3 colleges
अच्छा,
to go to, and I tried JJ. I didn't get in, so Sophia's. And commercial art, may say you can do like different, like you can have different careers from that, different art, photography,
हाँ.
typography, all of that. So
So
I
आपने
joined it was a full commercial art course from which you can get into any field.
अच्छा, डिफरेंट फील्ड्स. सो
Yeah.
यू चोज टू स्पेशलाइज इन ग्राफिक
Graphic design,
डिज़ाइनिंग.
yeah.
ओके. सो कौन से ऐसे ब्रांड्स हैं जो आपने रिसेंटली किए हैं, हमें बताइए.
Recently, I worked on like these art Jaipur Art Week, Jodhpur Art Week last year.
ओके.
And it's also still going on this year. Then this brand called 30 Best Bars, which is like a 50 Best Bars, the international Indian version of the 50 Best Bars. Then I'm working on a restaurant now, which is launching in Goa.
अच्छा.
And yeah, then I also self-published a zine, fashion zine last year with my fashion illustration. So yeah, these were like most recent projects.
ओके. और कौन से ब्रांड्स इसके अलावा आपने कुछ
I
पर्टिकुलर?
mean, known brands I've done Nicobar like very like long back when it launched. It's been I think 8 years now.
ओके.
And then I worked in like for all these fashion magazines, Architectural Digest, Vogue, all the magazines. I've done editorial work, and yeah, I think those are the known brands.
रीसेंट नॉन
Yeah.
ब्रांड्स एक्चुअली. ग्राफिक डिज़ाइनिंग आप यूजुअली हम देखते हैं लोगोज वगैरह लोग बनाते हैं, बट अभी ये स्विच हो रहा है लाइफस्टाइल में भी. सो देर आर लॉट ऑफ अपहोल्स्ट्रीज एंड लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स आर बीन मेड एंड वेयर दीज डिज़ाइंस आर बीन यूज्ड. तो उसके बारे में कुछ बताइए.
So it's not like traditionally in graphic design, but I started doing surface design because I started first with apparel, and
Acha.
then so from that kind of did some textiles and bed linen and like for Bharat Tiles, we ended up designing some tiles also. So different,
okay.
like surface design for different products and brands. Like I think that's my interest, but it's not traditionally in part of graphic design. I also enjoy doing that, so I've been doing that also, and still doing some for apparel, fashion, all of that also.
So yeah, right now like you're doing multiple things in
Yeah,
designing.
yeah.
Okay. So Shweta, tell me who has influenced your design style the most in your career?
So lately, I think in college we were obviously studying a lot of art history, and at that time there was like big artists like Van Gogh, Jackson Pollock, and that time we were just exploring different artists and learning.
Correct.
But I think lately, like past few years, there's this Japanese designer called Iko Tanaka,
Ha ha.
who's like now he's dead, but he's also part of that organization AGI, which I'm part of, which was like a big honor for me to be part of that. So he is like in the similar kind of space of this minimal geometric kind of. So he's one of my like in very big influences, and like all other some other things Japanese also, but yeah, he's kind of like a mentor.
Okay. So can you just walk us through the process of graphic designing from conception to completion?
So I work on different kinds of projects. So brand identity, there's I do illustration, I do surface design. So there's different kinds of projects. So like say for brand identity, it's mostly first we get the brief from the client,
Okay.
then do like a bit of referencing, look at competitor brands, then maybe share some mood boards with the client to get their like
Feedback.
yeah, and then yeah, then sketching concepts, ideas based on the brief and brand story, then kind of then yeah, then 2 rounds of presentation for the logo, then get that approved, and then after logo is done, then we get on to the brand applications and communication design for the brand.
Okay. So it's a long process that
Yeah,
way.
like few months depending on the kind of brand. Like if it's cafes, restaurants versus corporate is a little more like takes longer.
Acha.
So depending on the brand, sometimes there's just few applications, sometimes it's longer.
Longer. Depends on the clients and the
Yeah.
brands. So how do you balance your creativity with your client's vision and constraints?
I mean, that's always a challenge to do like good creative work with, I mean, like maybe
With
sometimes the feedback is from 5 people, sometimes it's 2 people. So it's like that's a challenge, but you try to kind of like basically if you work on the brief and show them according to their brief, I think that's how you kind of try to sell creative work, but it's challenging. It's not so
easy, too
yeah.
many inputs and
Yeah.
constraints are there, then it becomes little difficult as a creative
Yeah, and
person
in India, I
sometimes.
think there's more there's a lot of this commercial work versus creative work.
Creative.
So, like especially in advertising, when I was in advertising, it was mass brand. So then you have to, I don't know, it just kind of ends up being not so creative because the masses have to understand.
Correct.
So yeah, it's a challenge. But some big brands like Vodafone and Indigo, they have managed to do good work in spite of being big brands, and
But
yeah,
creatively, you think they are
yeah.
satisfying that way. Okay.
So it's a challenge.
So, Shweta, how do you think designing has evolved over the years?
Like for me or
In
in general.
general, what is your experience?
I mean, in India, it's from the time I left college, I think it's evolved a lot. Because that time when I got out, also there was not too many. There was like 2 3 design studios.
Acha.
So now obviously it's become very big, and graphic design has picked up a lot. That time it was more advertising agencies and art direction, and so everyone just got into agencies right after college. But now I think there are a lot of like small design studios and few big ones also. So like yeah, in I think 20 years it's picked up a lot in India. Like otherwise globally it's been big.
Acha.
So
So there were more independent designers outside, you're saying.
Yeah, at that time, design was anyways bigger in places like London and the US and
Acha,
Europe. But
comparatively.
yeah, here there was not so many design studios when I passed out of college at least.
Acha.
Yeah.
So now it has evolved, you're
Yeah,
saying,
and
much
now
more.
there's different branches of design. Like like in digital itself, there's like UI UX. There's uh, yeah, UI UX in digital. Then there's obviously people are getting into photography, content. I mean, social media content is now become a thing. So social media marketing, typography. Like there's a lot of branches you can get into from design now. Like even some designers from graphic design are now UI UX designers or motion graphics or like different
So,
avenues.
so Shweta, very important question. You are in love with polka dots. Tell me something about that because I think I've seen that you use in a lot of
Yeah.
your designs also.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it just, I think, came naturally, slowly into first like my life in the sense of like house and clothes, and then started translating into design. I don't know how it happened, but also there's this again Japanese artist called Yayoi Kusama, who's
Okay.
her art is basically based on dots. Like she basically just draws dots everywhere, and she's a very famous artist. So she is again one of my influences. So somewhere maybe that, but I think it just naturally came into my design and style and aesthetic and everything. So
Yeah,
and
I
now
think
I'm
it
like
really
obsessed
looks
with it.
beautiful. Yeah. So that's kind of your trademark also,
Yeah.
maybe.
Now it's like it's also like in my on my website brand identity, and like somehow you'll see it in all of my work. There will be some dot or circle or something somewhere.
Okay. So, do you have any rituals that help you get your creative juices flowing for your designs?
Yeah, so for me, I think traveling is a very big inspiration, and like every time I go for a trip, I come back with like very inspired, wanting to do personal projects, new projects, ideas. Then
Correct.
obviously visiting art museums or like architect, any sort of art field, like whether it's fashion design, art or architecture. So any like visiting those kind of places, that's inspiring. And yeah, traveling to new places.
Correct. Yeah, you definitely
Yeah,
learn different things, different culture, you
and a lot
see
of
new things. Yeah,
exposure. And yeah,
correct.
so it's that is, I think, for me, that's my main inspiration.
Okay.
So after I came back from Japan, I did like a bunch of like I did a poster series, then I did a collaboration inspired by Japanese prints. So yeah, just for example, like I was very inspired after I came back.
Okay, great. So, Shweta, tell me, how do you handle creative blocks when the inspiration doesn't come easily?
So usually I just kind of shut the file or shut the work, and I try to start doing something else, or like I don't know, watch a movie, or just basically get away from the brief or whatever I'm working on, and then look at it the next day if I'm stuck and I have no ideas. Uh, like the more I think, I feel like once you're stuck, I don't think you can
Yeah,
just go
you
on.
have
You
to
need to
leave
take a
it
break.
aside
Yeah,
for a
take a
time,
break
give
and
it
then
time.
come back to it maybe one day later.
Okay, so that works for you.
Or even like just going for a walk or getting out in nature or something like that, just to like calm the mind.
Right. So, what are the designing tools that you usually use for your
So
designs?
I work on Adobe softwares, which is I usually work on Illustrator, and I use the tablet, like the
Acha.
Wacom tablet, which is like you're writing on screen or drawing on screen,
Okay.
and little bit of Photoshop. And now I've started playing around with motion a little, so After Effects for motion graphics.
Um, Shweta, tell me, how do you approach various color themes? Like, do you go for pastels or darker shades? And what kind of fonts do you like to add?
So my personal work, if you see, like there's very like a pastel minimal kind of a color palette. So that comes out in most of my work, but it depends on the brief for every project. So depending on what they want to evoke, what the brief is, what the product or the brand is. So deep shades, like for a, I don't know, for a say a jewelry brand, it would be more like jewel tones or things like tertiary colors and things like that for that even if it's a fashion brand, depending on what kind of brand is it, what they want to evoke, it'll be sometimes it can be even just black and white depending on the brief. So yeah, I think depends on what you're trying to bring out through the design.
Through the brand also.
Yeah, through the brand. And for my own work, I think I use a lot of like soft colors,
Yeah.
soft and pastel light shades somehow.
Okay.
Not very like a lot of people have said that my work looks very calm and happy is the feedback that I've got because
So
of the colors.
Yeah, that's very nice actually.
So, and yeah, in terms of like if I see my wardrobe, I see again a lot of there's black and white, there's mustard and some solid colors. So I think that's, and I love black and white in general also. So I use a lot of black and white in
Your
work
designs
also.
also.
Yeah. So yeah, and then for briefs it's as it comes
As for the
yeah.
clients. But fonts may usually, how do you like to go? You like to go bold or you like very
Fonts-
basics?
Fonts again is depending on the brief and how the design should look. So if it's like for a if you want, if they want it to be timeless classic, then you tend to stick to like serif fonts. If it's more modern contemporary, then it's like sans serif. So yeah, like there are just 3-4 categories of fonts. So you use it basically depend. And then there's also your bunch of trendy fonts that come and go.
Yeah,
So
the creative types like.
yeah,
you know,
so those also you depending on the brand, like if it's a cafe or like that kind of like a trend based product, depending on that again depends on the brief. So but again I tend to use like more classic and set fonts for most of my work at least.
Acha.
Yeah.
Because matlab basically they should be means what you try to like in sometimes fonts may बहुत creative जाना भी can confuse people. Sometimes sticking to the basic also works.
Yeah, basic and like recently I used a like a script font because it was for this restaurant by the beach and they wanted that free kind of a spirit. So it's a script font which I've used. So depending on what kind of project or what the brand is, it varies. But like again for my personal work, I use like the classic fonts.
Classic ones. Okay. Shweta, tell me, what are the biggest design trends that you've seen with the rise of AI and automation today?
So in design, like mostly the visual tools, like Midjourney is one platform. Then there's OpenAI. There's now Photoshop also has its own like Firefly, which is a AI platform. So I think yeah, people are using a lot of AI to create images. They're even doing like recently there was this mock-up Adidas ad which was fully created on AI. So
Acha.
things like that. It's not gone into like it was just a mock ad, but like all that is starting to happen now. So yeah, so it's a little scary also, but then it's also I don't know, like I feel like you need to have the skill and the aesthetic to use the AI. It's a helpful tool, but I don't know if it can design. So it has to be, and then yeah, prompt engineering is like the new it's like a skill basically. You need to know prompt engineering to produce the kind of work you're looking for, like the exact image, or like I haven't mastered that yet, but I've been experimenting with Photoshop, little bit of OpenAI. So yeah, I mean, a lot of work is starting to look very digital, which is like one of the beauty brands I was working on. They said, "Do like can we do this on AI?" And it was like this natural product. So I'm like, how do you use AI for,
Yeah.
you know, like it has to look natural, which
Right.
it doesn't. So you can like at least you can tell that it's not it's
It's
somewhere
not, yeah, that organic, that
yeah, it's not
natural
organic.
looking. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like some ways it is
Yeah.
helping, some
Yeah.
ways I don't know. So
It cannot always be
it can't
helpful,
always
right?
work.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
only thing is you can just get some benefits in the creative
So I
planning
use
or
it for
something.
more like concepts and maybe some social media images here and there, but not like to design as such yet. But it helps. Like it's like a assistant. Like it aids you in
Correct.
designing, like even chat gpt and things like that for brand stories or things like that. Just like it helps, but you can't use it as is.
As
Like it
it
has
is,
to
yeah.
be
So you have to use your
someone has to,
mindfulness
yeah,
before you use
exactly.
that, right? In your opinion, what makes a design classic versus trendy?
I mean, classic is something that I guess lasts years, like over at least, I don't know, 50 years. So, like,
Right.
if you see brands like Hermes and some of them have changed their fonts, but like the really old fashioned brands like Chanel, their fonts are still exactly the
The
same. They would
same.
have tweaked it a little bit, but most fashion brands from that time are like classic, and they've still like
Stuck to
yeah,
that.
so they still look luxury and premium and yeah, so those are like brands that you have to look at the brand as it's going to last for 50 to 100 years. So yeah, and then the trendy design would be for stuff like now cafes and clubs and like I don't know, hair products or like things like that. Those are more in the now and don't, or maybe in 5-10 years they revamp the logo or
Correct, yeah.
so yeah. So it depends on again the client, how are they looking, what's the vision for the brand. Like also corporate brands, they look at more time, like timeless. It has to withstand like I don't know 30 years 40 years at least. So um so yeah, again depends on
So
the
basically,
brand and the company.
the bigger brands who want their designs to be a long-lasting one,
Yeah,
they would prefer the classic,
yeah,
and the trendies as per the need.
yeah.
Like, yeah, so
Like there are products also that come 1 year 2 years and they're
yeah,
gone.
correct,
So
correct.
but like yeah, the big fashion brands are a good example of how they're still like they still look
Using the
good.
classic
Yeah,
designs.
maybe they tweak it little and they use it in the like a contemporary context. But like Hermes is the best example I can give because their work and like it still looks fresh and it's such an old brand. So
Correct. So, what according to you is the biggest drawback and plus for a graphic designer?
Uh, I can state the pluses first.
Okay.
So I think for me, I like the biggest thing is like being able to do what you love, which is like most designers do it out of passion and not as a job. So
Correct.
so I think most creative people like they love their jobs and it's not like a job. It's like, and also it doesn't like I don't think it works 9 to 5. Like it's like our mind is always working. So you
Right.
can be in the night at home eating dinner and suddenly you'll get an idea, then you'll I don't know,
Right.
start doing something on it. So it's like it's kind of part of your life
Life.
and it's not really a job. So I think that's the biggest plus
Plus,
point.
yeah.
And drawback, I mean, I can say like for like I'm a freelance designer, so I miss working with people and in a like I used to work in agencies before and design studios, so I miss working in a team and collaborating with people because I work by myself. So that's the only like thing I see that I wish I had that, which I try to do in ways of like I collaborate with people to just get like energy to work together and not
Correct.
because by yourself you can just it can get very boring and monotonous sometimes. So
Right.
that's one thing I miss in working by myself.
Okay. So, Shweta, tell me, how do you manage deadlines and deal with your clients' expectations?
So for I think firstly we like give proper timeline so there's no rush in like in the for the project deliverables and things. So like ask for proper time, but sometimes it's like you get a client and they'll be like yesterday. So that is I try not to take up the yesterday kind of work, but if it's like a really fun client and project, then you just kind of work around the clock and sometimes do like
Quick work,
quick
like.
work. Sometimes when it's like restaurants where it's like, okay, we need this change, this menu tomorrow, that kind of thing. So then you just have to like work around the clock and do it for some projects. But otherwise, just try to keep, I guess, proper timelines before you start the project, so there's no rush, which is, I think, ideally the right way to do it, so you get enough time to like be creative and
At the
produce
same
the best work also.
Correct.
But sometimes you can also work on like tight deadlines where it's a fun project and you want to do it, so you turn it around.
Acha.
Yeah,
So-
but like in advertising, we used to have like tomorrow, like in the evening you'll get the brief and it'll be like tomorrow morning. So you
God.
work the whole night,
Yeah,
2 days, all that kind of like when I was
it becomes
younger.
like you're working all the time, you know.
Yeah.
Then yeah.
So
there's like
that I mean I have done it, but I would not now do it
prefer
anymore.
doing
Yeah.
it. Okay. What is the project or design that you're most proud of?
I think like definitely the Nicobar project, which was like very fun to work on, and it's become a very big brand.
Ji.
So and then recently I did this poster for like for the women's situation in Iran. I think 2 years back, where they were cutting their hair and like a protest poster. So
Okay.
that was, which also like got an award this year. So, and it was at a museum, displayed at a museum in Paris as well. So that,
Wow.
and it was for women freedom. So that was something that I think was in the past 2 years, like one of the pieces I was proud of to, work on.
So Shweta, how can you help someone who wants to build a career in graphic designing?
I think from my end, I can mentor, I can help them, I don't know, choose schools, colleges, or how to go about, like, I would say get some experience, work at a studio or an agency, and then I think most of the kids nowadays, they just come out of college and they want to do their own thing. So no experience in that sense, but like I would recommend to, I worked for at least like 6-7 years before I started independent.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say that for sure. And then yeah, and I can help like mentoring them and like giving projects, working with them on what I'm working on currently. So
That's great, actually. Shweta, ये भी बताइए, how good are the paychecks for a graphic designer at a beginner level to to becoming an experienced designer?
So it depends on what route you take. Like currently, like I said, there's so many different avenues you can go into. So like I think in the digital space, like UI UX is very good with pay. Like if you work at a place like Google or Facebook or Meta, then obviously you don't. That's like a great opportunity. But depends on what you want to get into, whether it's motion or print design, or you're working in an agency, freelancing. So there's actually a lot of different options. But like I left a job and started freelancing because I wanted to do my own personal projects also and pick the kind of work I do. So it's like a balance in like balancing your money with your creative work. So that's depends on, I guess, individually. If someone wants to make a lot of money, it's easy to just take that route and do it. But for me personally, I try to balance it out because all the good work is not really well paid. So
Correct.
then how do you, it's a balance between earning well and also trying to do creative work. I think almost creatives struggle with that, whether it's in film or I don't know, any sort of creative work. That's a struggle of how to do the work you love and also make money.
Right.
So, but again, like I said, like I have friends in working in Google and Meta and things who are earning a lot of money. So depends on what your goal is and what kind of design you want to do. Depends on that also. And how you can also, as a freelancer, take on 10 projects a month, earn a lot of money. I can take on one project a month and be an artist on the side. So it's like depends on what you want to do.
But are the paychecks good according to you?
Yeah.
Decent.
Yeah.
Okay. How much?
I mean, like I said, I can't say because depends on what everyone wants to do. So obviously, if you're working at Facebook, you're going to be earning way more. I don't think I would have seen that kind of money also, but I don't want to do that. But
Yeah.
there are friends who are doing it and earning a lot of money. They've bought houses.
Acha.
Yeah, they have medical insurance in the US. All of that.
Acha.
So,
Okay.
and then there are big agencies in Bombay also where people are working as a job. They're earning well. I mean, I don't know, like figures I can't say, but they're earning well.
Acha. Every person and every design is unique. What sets you apart from other designers? What is your USP?
So I think over the years I have developed a certain distinct style, like which is like minimal, geometric, graphic, and also somewhere I try to incorporate, like it's like a minimal India, like trying to do things that are Indian but in a modern context. Which also lot of, like, I get a lot of work also because of that, like a lot of people from like West clients and or people looking to contemporize an Indian brand, but they want it to appeal to the West also.
Okay.
So I think that is something I've seen, like I've been getting work with that context. So I've developed a certain style in terms of the design, and then polka dots also is very distinct, I guess, in my work, and color palette and the style of work basically is, I think, become a
Your
sort of
USP.
identity. Yeah, which is, I'd say, over working for at least 10 years independently. When I started exploring my own sort of design, that's when I started developing my own identity,
Okay.
which in advertising or in an agency it doesn't really happen because you're just doing commercial work most of the time.
Right. Tell me, how do you get international clients?
uh, I think I mean, I have just basically, I think Instagram has been a big like tool for at least marketing, in terms of, because it's a visual platform. So just putting your work out there,
Right.
that has been one way to just for people to see what you're working on. And I have not really done much actually. It's just been through word of mouth or through
And also your
putting
website,
yeah,
maybe, where you
website,
have to.
Instagram. I have written to, like, I sometimes write to brands or agencies that I want to work with, so I just keep, every time I like revamp my website, I write to bunch of people. So
Acha.
sometimes if they've seen it and something comes up maybe later, doesn't have to be at that time, but basically just putting your work out there wherever you can, whether it's writing to clients, Instagram, website, every time update your website, write to your full database,
Okay.
things like that. And this like AGI that I'm a member of, that has helped me to like these last two posters that I did for a social cause, they both ended up in a museum,
Right.
like international museum. So that also has helped to kind of put your,
Your
work
work
out there
across, yeah.
in on a global platform. So being part of something like that, like an international community, or yeah.
So, Shweta, tell me some funny incident or any incident that has happened with you over the years, which you really remember.
I mean, like annoying incidents I can say is like when basically projects have fallen through because the mostly when the client is confused and they can't like give you a proper brief, and then you keep going back and forth, and then they keep changing the brief. So it's like, moral of the story is like, you need to have the correct brief to produce the right design
Good
work.
output, yeah.
So like a lot of times that when the project has not gone well has been when they are confused about what they want. So
Right.
and then it's kind of not gone forward or whatever. So that's what I've experienced, where you need you have to have the correct brief before starting the work. Otherwise it'll just go
Here
here
and
and there,
there,
here and
yeah,
there, and
yeah.
it's like doesn't end in a good place.
Right. So, Shweta, thanks a lot for sharing your experiences and your inputs on graphic designing with us. Thank you. I hope a lot of viewers who want to be designers, graphic designers specifically, will get a lot of insights through this podcast. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. सो दोस्तों, ये थी हमारी मुलाकात ग्राफिक डिज़ाइनर श्वेता मल्होत्रा के साथ. उन्होंने बहुत सारी चीज़ें हमें डिज़ाइनिंग के बारे में बताया कि क्लाइंट्स को कैसे हैंडल किया जाता है, अपनी यूएसपी कैसे क्रिएट करनी चाहिए, एंड हाउ टू गो अबाउट इनटू द फील्ड ऑफ ग्राफिक डिज़ाइनिंग. आपको हमारा ये पॉडकास्ट कैसा लगा हमें कमेंट कीजिए, और किस तरह के और पॉडकास्ट आप देखना चाहते हैं, किन टॉपिक्स पर देखना चाहते हैं, हमें ज़रूर बताइए. एंड डू नॉट फॉरगेट टू लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब टू Pod Talk with Ekta. Thank you.